Hello there. You just caught me reading a copy of Even the Defeats by John Silk, one of the greatest books of all time, about how Sir Alex Ferguson used setbacks to inspire Manchester United's greatest comebacks. I'm really pleased to have on board today Scott. Checks notes. Oh, we're not doing Sir Alex Ferguson. Better get. This is the closest tennis thing I have to hand, apart from the stuff behind me. It's. I don't know. I don't know if you're going to win many majors with this in your hand, though.
I like that. I like that. That's not too bad. I mean, the racket behind you might be a better option.
I
But
think I'd do better with that one. Yeah. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right, John. First things first, I'll say thank you for having me on. Eventually, I know. I didn't want to make it seem like I was dodging you. Like you were asking me
You're a
about
busy man. It
on.
takes weeks to come up with some of those tweets.
I know. What can I say? I'm doing that all the time. I say I'm busy at work. I say I'm busy with other things, but really, it's coming up with those tweets. It's that's a full-time job for me. So, no. On a serious note, I appreciate coming on and finally having a wee chit chat, because I've definitely been watching some of your other chats with some people, some of my friends actually, and it's been fantastic. So I'm glad to finally make my tennis talking tennis debut on here. So
Scott, I'm loving the effort you've done for the background. By the way,
I mean, so this guy right here, he's been with me. He's about to fall over actually, because he is a little bit of wear and tear from this guy here. So this guy, obviously my life-size cardboard cutout of Andy Murray. He's been with me I think since like 2011, 2012. Because I think this photo is actually from 2011. I think it was at Shanghai, if I remember right. And yeah, I think I got it maybe the following year. My friends gave it to me for my birthday. So a lot of people who see it for the first time, they're like, "Did you really go out your way and get that?" And I'm like,
what I want to know is, have you moved flat or house in the last 11 years? I'm guessing you may well have done.
I have multiple times, and this guy.
And when you're getting the delivery van, or even if you're just doing it by public transport, do you get any funny looks?
You know what? A little bit. I've been lucky enough in the last kind of few moves of house and flat that I've had a car of my own, so I've been able to kind of like fold him up and like kind of like put him in the back. But like he is literally like, to the extent that I can even slightly angle my screen right here. He's like kind of like balanced behind a shelf at the moment. Because like the back of him is obviously supposed to be like a kind of cardboard, cardboard kind of life size, like kind of like stand on it, like behind him, but it's very much like disintegrated now.
It's like the real Andy Murray, dare I say, 2018, 2019. You set me up there, Scott.
I did. I knew I was going to be leading you into that. But you're not wrong. And yeah, this guy right here is held together with a lot of tape, and I think there's a pencil in there, blue tack,
Are we talking about Andy Murray's hip, or
exactly? Well, maybe both, right? Maybe both at this point. But he's still here, and I think eventually my idea is to, when he eventually completely fails, is I don't know. I think he's just been with me so long that it might be time to like maybe like I don't know, like frame the top half of him or something like that, and try and turn him into some sort of an artwork to hang on the wall. But my partner might not be too happy with that. I don't know. That'll be an argument.
Got it.
So we'll see.
Scott, but, there's going to be fun and jokes and plenty of other stuff. But let's start with on the court. Okay. Sure. We've actually got a question here from Jer, and I'll come to that in a second. And by the way, Jer, Hetherington is easier for me to pronounce. I'm probably making a mistake with the first name, so definitely pile in on me in the live chat regarding that. But what are your thoughts on Andy for the rest of this particular year, and maybe even next season, bearing in mind how things have gone in the last 12 months?
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, I guess to kind of answer that kind of question, you got to look back at his season so far first, right? And you've got to kind of see what kind of form he's been in and things like that. And I think generally, I feel like his season has been a net positive from the previous kind of couple of seasons of his. And I think that is, there's not been a title. There's not been a title. That's a big thing that people will say when they look at his season. They'll be like, that he's still not lifted a trophy since late 2019, and
Mhm.
it's about time he ends that. It's about time he finishes that, and he hasn't been able to this season. So is that like a failure of an entire season? No, I don't necessarily think so, because he's been to a few tournament finals. He's been close. He lost a very tight one, his last final, to Berrettini on the grass, and he lost that through, I think, he was cramping, he was a little bit injured there, he was feeling it a little bit, and yeah, so he lost a close one there. And he reached the final at the start of the season as well, lost out there to Karatsev, I do believe. Again, another, well, I think he kind of, at that point, I think that was straight sets, and Karatsev just played an absolute blinder. Probably one of his best tournaments of the year, Karatsev, because he's not found his form really since then, almost. But so yeah, his season, he's reached a few finals, and obviously, if you're comparing it to peak Andy Murray, like, it's not been all great news. But I think we can't compare him to peak Andy Murray right now. We can't compare him to 2016 Andy Murray. We can't compare him to world number one Andy Murray. We have to compare him to like the last few years Andy Murray.
Mhm.
And I think,
Mhm.
generally speaking, he's been consistent in entering tournaments, and that's a huge win for us at this point.
Yeah.
It's a huge win for him as well. So looking forward from now, it's an interesting one, because obviously he's just played Laver Cup, lost a couple of matches there, but very close matches. And I need to stress this, because I saw a few criticisms of Andy's performance at the Laver Cup, losing two tight matches,
Mhm.
and I think, I don't know, I just feel like that was it's a bit unwarranted, considering how close he was in those matches. So I think when he gets, I think his biggest thing is to make sure the cramping issue, because that's a big thing that's been the case for Andy in the last kind of few weeks and months, is the
Mhm. Mhm.
cramping matches, and that's came about relatively suddenly. And as far as I know, he thought he had it fixed. And you see him at the Laver Cup, and you saw him getting frustrated that it was still kind of, in that first singles match, he felt it a little bit, and he's frustrated at himself for that. I think that should be their priority going forward this season. Get that sorted, kind of, and maybe put the results on the back burner a little bit. And I know that's frustrating, because we feel like we've been doing that with Andy for the past few years. But I
Mhm.
just think, get that sorted, get that worked out, and the results kind of come secondary. If I'm being realistic, let's say I'd love to see another. I'd love to at least see another tournament final from him this season, like a smaller event, maybe a smaller event. I know he's been a couple of 250s, maybe a 500. So let's see him get to another final at least. Let's see that happen. Let's see him lift the title. That would be great. But I think at least another tournament final of whatever level. But realistically, probably looking at the smaller events. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think I would back up everything you say and probably just add a
Mm.
little bit more. I think
Yeah.
compared to where we were in 2020, also
Mm.
2018, I'm skipping 2019 partly just because, as you highlighted, he did win Antwerp towards the
Yes.
end of that year.
Yeah.
But in general, over the last 5 years or so,
Mm.
we're now seeing him competing with De Minaur and probably going into that match as the favorite, maybe. We're seeing him play Berrettini at the US Open, and many people were fancying his chances.
Mm.
So these are conversations that you'd have been said you were mad 3 years ago, 4 years ago. He was in retirement.
Mm.
2.5 years ago, he's making a comeback. If we
Yeah.
had these conversations about, I think he's got a good chance of beating Berrettini at the US Open in the third round.
Mm.
He's hoping to get seeded soon. And well, these are conversations that just were just not possible 3 or 4 years
Mhm.
ago.
Absolutely. And I think the mad thing is, because again, following the Laver Cup, following Roger Federer, remember that guy, he following his retirement, his send off ceremony, really. Obviously, the questions. I think even Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal were getting asked about, does this make you think about your retirement? Does this maybe make you think? And then obviously Andy was in the firing line on that as well. It was like, well, really, Andy should be considering like following suit. And I just think I think so many people forget that Andy is now a top 50 player in the world again. Like that,
Hmm.
he's I think he's 45 right now currently. Maybe I'm just off at that.
43, I think.
43. So yeah, so like he's top 50 in the world. Like, and I don't know. I just think, give him a little bit more time. Let's see what more he can eke out of it. Like, because as you say, we've seen a steady kind of increase in
Hmm.
what we kind of expect of him now. And he's now reached the third round of a major. And I know, again, if you compare it to like Andy at his prime, third round of a major, well, like that's not great, but it is great. It is great for the Andy Murray we have right now. That's fantastic. And let's just give him maybe another season to work out what more he can get from his career, I think. And then we'll talk, right? And then we'll talk. Then we'll see. So yeah, bit more time.
How many titles is he on in total? Because 12 Travel 21 here is asking if he can get to 50. So
It's
I'm not
50.
sure how.
He's just off. He's only a few off. It's bad that I don't know that off the top of my head. I should feel bad about that. People will be screaming at me about it.
Don't worry. Well, I mean, listen, I could just have a quick point. I'm not even sure exactly how many it is.
Off. And that was a big thing for him, I think, at the start of this year. I think he said that he wanted to hit 50, and he has, obviously. So yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, absolutely. Of the things that Andy can now do in his career, I think he can do 50. I think he can get another kind of handful of titles and just get to 50. That'd be a nice round number as well. Like, you know what I mean? If we're considering round numbers, like it would be nice.
Absolutely.
50.
He's got to enter. I'll tell you what he's got to do. He's got a few of these. He's got to get some of the Bonn over 30, Bonn Boyle, which is a suburb of a city that has 250,000 people. The over 30s category. He's got to enter a few of these, and then he'll be on 50 in no time.
Honestly, what I'm saying, what I've said multiple times, is what Andy needs to do is come along and play the local club championships right around the corner for me and win a title there, and then he has one, right?
Get like through the 50 Barry, and then go back to majors. Yeah, exactly.
Why not? Like why not? Like just come along. And on a more serious note, in that regards, I think his time for, because I used to say, a year and a half ago, I used to say all the time, he needs to just win a challenger event, like just go out and win a challenger, just go out and win a challenger, just go out and win a challenger, like just like have a title, But I do think his time for going to challenger level is kind of past him now. Like there's no point. Like he's literally top 50 in the world. So like his kind of he needs to be picking up these 250s and 500s like events, I think. And sure, yeah, absolutely, he's got another kind of handful of titles in him, I think. And I think if we're being optimistic, I think he's got a master 1,000 in him. I think he does. Maybe. Am I being? Is that too unrealistic?
Maybe. I tell you what I think as well, and this is just off the top of my head rather than a deep thought, if you like, and research. Sure. I think he's got to maybe turn some of these tight matches into wins. Sure. I'm just thinking recency bias here, but I'm thinking that Berrettini match. I know it was 4 sets rather than 5, but it was super tight throughout. I think Berrettini was the better player on the day. Don't get me wrong. In fact, the Murray set, the set that Murray won, I actually think he played worst in compared to the other 3 that he lost. But again, De Minaur was an example of that. I think that match was there to be won, but he just slipped through his fingers at the last moment, sort of thing. And I think if he turns some of those into wins, he's going deep at a slam and maybe getting to a final and maybe even winning a 250 or a 500 or even getting deep or going to a final of a Masters 1000. The problem, of course, he has with the Masters 1000, I think, is that there'll always be someone. There'll either be an Alcaraz or Rafa or Novak or somebody that you would just imagine would be a step too far. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, listen, I'm a fan of the progress. I've got a few questions for you, actually, and I just want you to say aye or nay. Is it nay? Is that the right way of saying
it? Nay. Let's go.
Okay, so aye or nay?
No is a good one for.
Here we go. Andy Murray, top 10.
So I'm seeing. So I know you're looking for aye or nay or no.
This is a good start, Scott. This is
going to be. I know. We'll get back to it. I promise.
Don't worry.
But I will say I am seeing. So I host an Andy Murray themed podcast with my 2 good friends, Claire and Peter, and I'm consistently seen as the most negative of us in terms of what we see with Andy. Yes. Let's say top 10. There's Claire in the comments there. There's
nice. Yeah. I mean, listen, if as Claire says, and Miles too, that if some of these players can win Masters, he can have a run for sure. All right. Andy Murray, aye or nay, sorry. Andy Murray in a slam final.
Aye. bad thing to admit.
There's the support here. All right, let's make it a
Sure.
bit easier. Here we go. Here we go. We're gonna go. You're from. Where in Scotland are you from, by the way, Scott?
From so I currently live in Edinburgh. Let's say Edinburgh. I'm initially from a little bit outside of Edinburgh, but
Okay.
let's say
And you were at the Davis Cup, right, in Glasgow recently.
that's correct. I was at the first day of that. I was at the first day of that. Didn't
Mhm.
make it to the second 2 days, but I made the first day.
Okay, here we go. Aye or nay? Haggis. You didn't
Aye,
think that was coming, did you?
aye, sure, aye.
Scotch eggs.
No, no, not such a big fan.
Kilts.
No, to be honest, no. I do have one, but no.
Do you know who this is? Wet, wet, wet.
I'm gonna be like, no.
They're a Scottish boy. Well, I mean, this is to the rest of them anyway. So they're a Scottish boy band, stroke slightly
Okay,
better
right,
than boy band.
right.
Don't worry, but I'm showing my age there, Scott. Anyway, okay, listen, let's get back to the tennis.
Sure.
Let's talk about Andy and your fandom, your support of him.
Sure.
I mean, when was the first time you remember seeing him play, whether that be on TV or just being aware of Andy Murray?
Cool, yeah. So I would go back to I would think I think it was like so. I've told the story a few times recently, and I've always kind of got the year wrong. I think it was like 2007, 2008. I kind of first heard of Andy Murray or saw Andy Murray, and I still recall coming home from school one day. And look at this! Look
Who's
at
the
this!
lead singer of Wet, 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 by the way?
This is the kind of abuse that I have to deal with over at Murray
Yeah.
Musings HQ, I tell you.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I came home from school one day, and I think it was in like first year of high school or secondary school. And came home and I turned on the TV and Wimbledon was on. So I think a big thing, especially for like I guess like British tennis fans, a lot of the time we first hear of tennis, it is through Wimbledon, you know, the biggest tournament, and it's on the TV all the time when it's over here. It's on like BBC One, BBC Two. So came home and I remember switching it on, and I remember this kind of grungy, like skinny kid with like big curly hair and like you know, he was on the court at Wimbledon, and he was screaming and yelling and swearing, and like this was I'm not sure if it was my first time like watching tennis, but it was definitely one of the first kind of early memories of it, and I was like, who is this? Like, what is going on? And I need to stress, like, I mean, maybe you can tell, like, I had even like, but at that age, I had like bigger curly hair than I do now. Like, my hair right now is just an absolute state. But I had like bigger curly hair than I do now back at school, and I was quite a skinny kid, and I just didn't like. I don't know. I felt like I was a kind of like, you know, the kind of, I guess, the outsider at high school. So I was like watching this kind of like kid who I was like, oh, I can kind of get on board with this kind of attitude for tennis, especially because before that we had Tim Henman, and I've grown to appreciate Tim Henman in kind of recent years with Andy's comments on him, saying that he was really good to him coming up and on the tour, but like. I always found him to be a little bit like, you know, I was like, yeah, I mean, sure, like
schoolboy sort of.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, you know, Wimbledon would love it. Wimbledon would have loved it if Tim Henman had won Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It would have looked very good for Wimbledon if Tim Henman had won Wimbledon. And from that point onwards, when I first saw this kid on court at Wimbledon, you know, acting like, you know, this match was absolutely everything to him, and I think it was his first or second round. And then he came off the court, and I remember he would talk like, or he gave an interview, and it was just like, I was like, his accent just hasn't. I mean, obviously, you know, it's changed a wee bit, but like really not too much. We all know how Andy sounds in an interview. It's like, you know, he doesn't exactly sound, by his own admission, he doesn't sound the most excited by much. So,
I think that perception has changed a lot in the last 5, 6, 7 years.
For sure. No, it definitely has. It definitely has. And he's gone out of his way to kind of, you know, help that kind of image change a little bit with some of his jokes and things like that. And I think
TV appearances with
yeah, absolutely. People have warmed to him a little bit more. But and I mean, especially in the early days, like that was really difficult. I think I mean, if you're coming over here and you're, you know, looking at like the Britishness, like the Tim Henman fans weren't so warming to this kid as like the next great British player, and I think it kind of grated on them a little bit. But for me, it was just like, I love this. I love this guy, this kid going on court at Wimbledon and like, acting like it's everything during the match and then coming off court and giving an interview and sounding like it's absolutely nothing. That he doesn't really get. And I just love that so much about him. And from that point onwards, it was really kind of like it was me and Andy. I was that kind of weird Andy Murray kid, and now I'm a weird Andy Murray adult. With kind of everything that's going on in between, because I think steadily over the course of his career, like Andy's built up a really, really strong fan base. And of course, people are going to be like, oh, it's not as big as Roger Federer's or Rafa Nadal as well. Well, obviously it's not. But I think core Murray supporters are really, really good people. And I think it's he's got such a good, solid, strong fan base behind him. And I've been lucky enough to like meet them along the way. And yeah, I don't know. It's such a good kind of good-natured kind of fandom to be a part of. And he's such a good guy to follow. As you can kind of tell, I mean, here he is here, so he's doing well. Yeah. But yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride with me and Andy, and there's been a lot of tears and a lot of laughter, but it's been great. And there's another few years left, John. There is another few years.
Talking of which, or just in terms of your fandom anyway, another question here for you as well. How many times have you seen him play, and have you seen him play outside the UK?
Sure. So I've seen him play. Oh gosh. So the fact that I like to reel out for people is that I've and I'm sure Claire, if she's still watching, or Peter, if he's watching, will be typing in the comments. So the matches that I've seen Andy playing, so I've seen him play. I think the first match that I saw him play, first time I ever saw him play was Davis Cup in 2016. Mm-hmm. So obviously the best year of Andy Murray's career, really. And I saw him lose in the Davis Cup in a like 5.5 hour, 6 hour epic against Juan Martín del Potro. I was lucky enough to be at that match. And I think that went down as, and I think it still does go down as, Andy Murray and Juan Martín del Potro's longest match in their career. Don't quote me on that. Definitely want to check that one. But yeah, I saw that absolute epic in front of like a Glasgow crowd, and it was fantastic to watch. So I saw him first then, and then I saw him at an exhibition event that he played with Roger Federer in Glasgow as well, at the Hydro. I think the following year, I think that was 2017. And it was an Jane, thanks Jane. He lost that exhibition event as well. So I was like, well, it's an X, so it doesn't matter. And then I saw him at, I was very lucky enough to see him at Wimbledon this year as well. I got to see him on the center court of Wimbledon against John Isner. It was a great match. So I'm on the center court of Wimbledon.
Tell us, Scott, a bit about this story, if you like, because there's a bit of a story involved here, and I know one or two other people involved in the story, if you like. Yes, but I think you can't just pass this off by, and maybe the modest Scott would do this, but by saying, "Oh, I saw him play John Isner is here." Anyway, next topic. Tell us a bit about what happened in July.
Sure. So to discuss Wimbledon in more detail, it was when the tickets first went on sale for Wimbledon, it was a good few months beforehand. And at the time, I really didn't have still don't have a huge amount of money to my name. But at the point, like a lot of people, obviously, when tickets first go on sale at Wimbledon, it's cool to be like, I just picked up tickets for this day at Wimbledon, just picked up tickets for that day at Wimbledon, just did that. Just picked up tickets for Wimbledon generally. And I was like, classic me. I was just like, I tweeted out, I'd just like to announce that I did not get tickets for Wimbledon. Tweet that out, just as a little kind of like, later on that day, so I think a lot of people know that Judy Murray is involved in this story, but I actually think that some people might not be aware of what happened initially. So I tweeted that out initially, and it was later on that same day, just a few hours later, I just checked Twitter on my phone. I was like, I've got a DM here, and the DM was from Laura Robson.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure I've told this story too many people. I don't know if I've told it on the Murray Musings podcast, maybe. So yeah, it was a tweet. It was a message from Laura Robson, who is now a former British tennis player and great broadcaster. Now, and she was she was lovely. She basically sent that tweet of mine to me and was like, "Hi there, I hope," and I could go find the tweet actually. What she said, it was basically saying, "Hi there, I hope this isn't creepy." That's how she led off. That's how she led off. Or I hope this isn't weird or something like that. But this tweet just came up on my timeline, and I was just wondering if you would like. I'm gonna have a few undated grounds passes for Wimbledon. Would you be? I'll have those closer to the time. Would you be interested in them? And I was like, right. Well, this is mad, and this is very odd. But I sure, yeah, absolutely, I will do that. Thank you so much, Laura Robson. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely take those grounds passes off your hands. Because absolutely, I'll definitely do that. I'll sort out transport later on down the line. Hopefully, I have money enough to pay for that, and transpired that I definitely did. But yeah, I was like, absolutely, this is really surreal. Like, yes, I will. Thank you so much, Laura. Also, you were a great player and good luck in retirement, because she literally retired the next day, or she announced her retirement, her official retirement from tennis the following day after that. She sent that message. And I was just like, well, that's weird, but okay, cool. I'm going to Wimbledon. So she'd given me four of those passes. So that I could take someone who on 2 of the days, so I could go basically 2 days to Wimbledon. And yeah, so like major shout out to Laura Robson. She was absolutely amazing. I wouldn't have went to Wimbledon without her, would not have been there without her, and that was so cool of her. So yeah, definitely major shout out to her. And so yeah, so ended up I was gonna get to go to Wimbledon, and Wimbledon this year was on my kind of crossed over my birthday.
Nice.
29th of June. So it's always kind of nice. I think it tends to fall kind of during the Wimbledon fortnight at some point. And yeah, so basically went down and we planned it out. Me and my partner went down there, and we managed to sort out accommodation. We managed to stay with a friend of ours, and I think was it the night before we were traveling down or something like that, or just before that, Andy was playing his first round match, and I was like, this will be cool because he's actually going to be playing on my birthday. But I think Andy lost the opening set of his first round match at Wimbledon this year. And I remember, or he lost second set. It was definitely a 4-set match in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
And I tweeted out, I was like, Andy, it's going to be again, very, very kind of like tongue in cheek stuff from me. I was like, Andy, I'm going to be at Wimbledon in 2 days, and I'd really love to be watching you from the hill, please. I'd really love to be watching you, because that was my plan. I was very much up for that.
You go through,
yeah, absolutely, totally up for that. So you really need to win this because I'm going to be there, and I'd like to watch you from the hill, please. Yeah, from then, like it got a little bit of traction on Twitter, that kind of comment, and somebody, I'm not sure who it was, and maybe this is who I owe it to, I don't know, but somebody basically tagged Judy Murray in the replies to that tweet and said, any way that you can sort Scott out, Judy, with a ticket to watch Andy or something like that. And I was like, oh, but that would be cool, but obviously, I need to stress, I was very, very up for going to Wimbledon and just chilling on the hill, because so many people do that, and it looks like such a chill day, just gonna go chill on the hill, watch whatever's happening, get some pims, you're good. And that sounds like a perfect birthday for me, honestly. But what transpired was my absolute like perfect birthday, really. So the night before my birthday, we traveled down. I think it was en route down to Wimbledon. Judy Murray sent a message to my podcast account, because we'd been lucky enough to interview Judy Murray on the podcast at the start of this year.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We managed to get her on, and it was a great episode with her, and she was lovely. And she basically sent a message to my podcast account and was like, "Hi Scott, I saw that you were going to be at Wimbledon on your birthday. Do you want to like I'll organize something, and we'll meet up. I've got a little bit of a surprise for you." And at that point, I was like, right, is it going to be watching Andy in center court? I don't want to get ahead myself, but is that what it's going to be? And again, it's surreal just to get a message from Judy Murray, because it's like, what in the world? Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Judy. I really appreciate this. That's absolutely fantastic. So, and I think so it came around on the day. We go there, and it was almost like a kind of it was almost like a kind of like almost like a kind of like secret mission. So Judy was like, and she messaged me in the morning. She was like, "Happy birthday, Scott. I'll message you when I get to Wimbledon later on today." And I was like, "Thank you, Judy. Just let me know. Like what the deal is. Like, I was definitely not that casual. I was like, "Thank you so much, Judy. Yeah, thank you." And she was like, "Well, I'll message you when I arrive." So, I then don't hear from her. I think she said that she was due to arrive at like 2 or something like that. And 2 o'clock comes and goes, and 2:05 comes and goes, and 2:15 comes and goes. And I'm like, oh god, my partner's like, it's fine, Scott, it's fine, it's fine. She'll I was like, oh gosh, maybe she's changed her mind. Maybe she's realized what an absolute weirdo I am. Maybe she's been like, what in the world?
Maybe she's been going through some of your old tweets and going, oh,
that's 100% it. Like maybe like I didn't show my Andy Murray cardboard cutout in the episode we did with her, but maybe she knows that. Maybe she knows. And so, but then she did message, and she messaged. Oh gosh, what was the reply? Again, I've got like I'll look it up. It was something like, meet in like 7 minutes. Outside the media studio at Wimbledon.
okay. Media center.
And the media center, that's what it is. But like it was a very kind of specific time. It was like, oh, like where is it? Let's just scroll back up and have a look. It was like,
go scroll back.
Yeah, I will do. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. So 2:35 at the corner of court 18. So 2:35, so specific.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like 7 minutes from it. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Like let's go. And like the walk over to the media center was like, I was like so nervous. And get there, and she's just chilling on her phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hi Judy. And she was like, there, and she's just like, there he is. I was like, here I am. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, like so much of my conversation with her is a complete mad blur. It was just she handed me this like birthday card, and it was a ticket to 2 tickets to go in to see Andy play. And she was like, yes, you can go and you'll be sitting right behind the box and things like that. And yeah, it'll be good. And I'm just like, thank you so much, Judy. Thank you so much. And then so Judy Murray, she's absolutely lovely, but she, as people can probably tell, like she's quite, a formidable woman. Like you wouldn't want to kind of have like, she would argue you down. She'd make her point.
For sure.
Out of nowhere, I don't know where it came. I was like, can I get a hug, Judy? Let me tell you, Joe. Let me tell you. There was a moment. There was a split second that she was like, huh.
Yeah.
Sure. What in the world? So yeah, go for that. Like, and then I obviously got my photo taken with her and things like that. And then the entire time this conversation is going on, and I did notice it was happening at the time. There was a camera, like a TV camera there, and I was like, "What is going on?" So then Judy finishes up her chit chat with me, and she disappears. And I turn around, and a journalist from the BBC, I think. Carradine is his name. Second name is Carradine. I feel really bad that his first name escapes me. But he's like, hi there, Scott. Nice to meet you. This is where you do an interview with the BBC, if you're okay with that. I was like, sure. What's happening? And basically, like, they did a little bit of like, kind of like, obviously promos. He was like, just talk through what just happened there. And I was like, oh, it's my birthday, and I'm here, and I was going to be watching Andy from the Hill and things like that. And he just basically wanted to report the story of Judy meeting a big Andy Murray fan, and surprising him with the ticket and things like that. But like again, I really don't remember too much of what I said like in the interview. It was such a blur. And then eventually, obviously, that bypasses, we say goodbye, and I wander on away. And but what I thought was really, really cool, and I need to stress this again, is like 5 minutes after that happened, I'm just getting my bearings together, like processing it. And I get a phone call, and I'm like number, like, hello. And it was Judy. Judy was calling me to apologize that for the BBC kind of jumping right in at the end and, immediately, bombarded me with an interview. She was like, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you're doing okay. The BBC, they tend to follow me around a wee bit at Wimbledon because, obviously where I go, Andy might be, and they might want to be reporting what Andy's doing and things like that. And I just thought that was such a lovely thing for her to do, like just check it in and, making sure that I was okay after that, because I was like, yeah, I'm doing okay, Judy. Don't worry, thank you. I appreciate it.
That's
so
nice.
much.
It's nice. I see what you mean.
Right.
Just what about the match itself, Scott?
Sure. So I guess that's what it comes down to, right?
For Andy, it does. I'm sure Andy's really pleased that his mother helped you out and all that. But
Sure. Well, yeah. So he ended up losing that match, right? So he
another tight match. Is that fair to say? I mean, I know he lost the first two sets, but
lost the first two sets. Won the third set. Was in the middle of the fourth. And I think this is a good match for which to kind of like comment on the whole kind of like Andy losing kind of tight tennis matches, like in close matches. And I think that the Muzza fam, as I like to call the Andy Murray fandom, I think some of the Muzza fam would like us to be called something else entirely, but that's fine. I'm sticking with Muzza fam. So Andy's kind of way of kind of losing these close matches at the moment, and I think this is such a thing from thinking back to his both his earlier career and his like the pinnacle of his career, is that those are the kind of matches that like made Andy Murray like made us really love Andy Murray. Do you know what I mean? Those are like the kind of Murray coasters. Those are the kind of situations where like Andy was down nowhere in the match and then somehow turned it around and managed to grab a win from the jaws of defeat.
coming from two sets down. I mean, I think it was Jack who mentioned how many times that happened at the US Open, for example.
So many times. So like it's those situations that Andy really made a kind of name for himself and being able to produce and being able to, never say die really. And it's those situations where like you tuned in and you saw Andy was down two sets, but you had it in your head. You were like, oh, this looks bad for him, but he could still win this. And I think those are the moments right now where you feel them. You honestly do still feel them. You're like, oh, here we go. Like, here we go. Like, he wins that third set against John Isner at Wimbledon, and the crowd was feeling it. Like, we're feeling it at that point. We're all like, oh my gosh, like, I've lost my voice by this point, but we're like, we're here for another 2 hours. Let's do this. Let's get this done. And let's get another 2 tie-break sets won. Let's have this. And halfway through that fourth set, I think he nets a backhand put away.
Yeah.
Put away. And you just felt it. You just felt like the kind of, that's not how this is going to go. He loses the next point in a close rally, and John Isner breaks him. And at that point, you're like, he's not gonna break back here, because John Isner's serve is just astronomically good, especially on the grass courts. So it was one of those situations, and yeah, those are the kind of situations that Andy's had quite a bit in recent years. There was another situation at the Davis Cup that I, just a week or so ago now, where there was another kind of close matches. There we go. Yeah, absolutely. That's like his kind of brand of matches. I appreciate that. See, other people can kind of get on board with that. It's his kind of way of being, and he just needs to get that back, I think. And I think it's a question of whether or not he still can, whether or not he has the fitness, whether or not he believes he can really come back and win those matches. I don't know. He's still looking for that big kind of comeback win, and it didn't happen at Wimbledon, obviously. But it was still, I need to stress, it was still outrageously good to watch Andy Murray on the centre court at Wimbledon, because you just don't know how many more times. Like, you imagine next year, like, he's going to be there. I imagine he'll kind of let us know if it's going to be his last one, but you just don't know how many more opportunities you'll have to be there and watch it. So getting to live the Andy Murray experience despite loss on my birthday was just outrageously cool. And yeah, major shout out to both Judy Murray and Laura Robson for making that happen, because I would not have been there without those two. Because
Laura Robson, finally, by the way, she's been waiting for 3 months for this shout out from you, Scott.
Absolutely. No, for sure. No, absolutely. Like, sent her message and stuff like that. And she was just so lovely, like, absolutely, like, so generous of her to just reach out. I just love how she like popped into my DMs like I hope this isn't creepy or anything. And so I was gonna be like, yeah, this is pretty weird. Like this is pretty weird. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was gonna offer you, gonna get you in touch with Judy. No, don't worry about it.
Like, this is pretty odd behavior from you, Laura. But yes, no, generally, like, the Andy Murray at Wimbledon experience, I just don't know if anything can kind of replace that. So being able to be there to experience it was outrageous. I'm sorry, that was a very long-winded story there, but
Oh, well, we're here for it. I mean, I knew the Judy Murray element, if you like, or I thought I knew the broad story, if you like. But
sure,
it's cool that you fleshed out some of the
absolutely.
things there. I actually have a question as well about the fandom. We talked about the Muzzer fam, and we're familiar with other fams that exist amongst tennis fandom.
Sure.
What I'd like to know first of all is, have you met some non-British Andy Murray fans that are, that they're either supporting him in the crowd or just in general, either on Twitter or, yeah, I'm a huge Murray fan as well, and you follow each other, because we do see it a lot with some of the other players on the tour, and no matter the nationality or no matter how successful they are, even some of the sort of lower ranked players seem to attract people from certain parts of the world. But
Sure.
have you met someone that's a Murray fan outside of the UK or from outside of the UK?
Sure. So like I guess the main one, and he would kill me. He would kill me if I didn't give him another shout out on here. I've already mentioned him. Like I do my podcast with him. Peter. Peter Childs. He is a big Andy Murray fan from America. From the
Okay.
States. And he has he's been he's like any other Andy Murray fan, like came across him and was like, oh, wow, this guy's great, this guy's fantastic. So yeah, he's from the States, and I need to really start with him. As for kind of other Andy Murray fans, I mean, you really don't know. So like you tend to run into like
I'd love to meet a Serbian
you
Andy
know
Murray
what,
fan.
I think Andy's one of these players that like he's got he's got such a he has, as we briefly touched on, he's kind of grown his kind of, I guess, public image, I suppose, like a lot in like the last few years. And in generally, a lot of people, like a lot of tennis fans, even if they're fans of Novak generally, or even if they're fans of someone else, you'll ask them, are you an Andy fan? Like, do you like Andy Murray? And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely, like Andy Murray. Like they might not be his number one, but
Yeah,
like
right.
oh, absolutely, 100%. Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. And so, yeah, I mean, as for running into like specific Andy Murray fans from like, elsewhere, like out with Peter, like, yeah, I mean, I can't say I have. Like, I've been lucky enough to like run into a good few, a good few Andy Murray fans in my time. And as I say, like record a podcast with them, and the Davis Cup is such a great opportunity to meet like everyone there is an Andy fan. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone there is an Andy fan, obviously, unless it's like the opposition team's fans, maybe they're not so much, but yeah, I mean, there's also an inherent like kind of Scottishness about the Andy Murray fandom, and I know I don't want to.
No, it's fine. Listen. Hang on a second.
Irish fans,
Nationality and fandom are our best friends.
There might be some generally British tennis fans in the.
He gets a lot of love in England now, as you say.
Absolutely, definitely does. He definitely does, and I don't want to downplay that at all, because yeah, absolutely, you might get some messages being like, "What? I'm from England. I love him." But I do think there's an inherent like Scottishness about Andy that kind of appeals, out with Scotland. You know what I mean? Like his kind of grunginess, his moodiness, his kind of way of talking, his way of playing tennis, really, as well. Is kind of like, I'm gonna play like the entire world is on my shoulders. I always describe Andy like the opposite of Roger Federer. Roger Federer made his entire career on the back of making tennis look ridiculously easy when it isn't.
Yeah,
Andy Murray,
he was weightless like a feather, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Whereas Andy Murray, he steps on court and he makes it look like the most difficult thing in the world.
Even his I just look at his shoes these days and the socks and it's like he's carrying a few kilos on his feet.
Yeah. He makes it look so hard, and he doesn't hide anything from us, does he? So it's like, it'll be a rally that goes like ridiculous, man, and then he nets back and he like just lose the plot at how frustrated he is. And like, to a certain extent, he's kind of toned it down over the years. When he was younger, he would like burn so much energy on his reactions that I was like, Andy, you're burning yourself out here. And then he would go on to like lose because he was absolutely shattered emotionally. Now he's a little bit more constrained, but he definitely hasn't lost that element of him. And I think that is like very much part of his brand, and part of like why the Muzzer fam do love him so much. Like, just because he is so like, you don't tune in to watch these players like smile and be happy on court and grin away. You tune in to watch these players just play this sport that you love in an outrageous way. And Andy just is going to make no secret of the fact that this is a very difficult thing to do. So, yeah, I think that is kind of what brings fans of Andy Murray kind of together. It's the fact that it's so difficult to watch him sometimes, like as well. Like it just grates on us. We're like, Andy, just get it done. Just
get it done. Yeah.
Have it finished. Just do this differently and just win it. Like, but I think that's part of it. We wouldn't have it any other way. Do you know what I mean? Like the Andy Murray experience is the Andy Murray experience, and like we wouldn't. If it was any easier than that, it would be boring. Do you know what I mean? Like it would be dull.
Actually, talking of which, and I think this brings me to some of your tweets and social media posts. What would it be like if he did just win easy all the time? You wouldn't have the opportunity to. I mean, let's just say he was winning 3 slams a year, like Roger and Novak and Rafa have done in the past. And he was doing that now, and he was just crushing people and bageling people and doing an Iga Swiatek, if you like. Scott, I think you'd have to change your social media. I don't know. You'd have to remodel yourself somehow because it wouldn't be funny anymore. It's like when you go and watch a comedian and it's some dude on stage and he's the best looking guy ever. And he's telling you about a bad date, and you're like, "That's not funny. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You're too good looking to have had a bad date experience. We need some rough edges, if you like, so to speak." And I think with your humor and your tweets that have all made all of us chuckle, we need Andy Murray to make life difficult.
Well, I should stress, like it's made some people be like, "Who's this guy?" They've looked at my page and been like, "He's a huge Andy Murray fan. He's delusional." Blog.
But they don't get it, do they? And that's yeah.
That's right. I mean, so for anybody who is listening, me and John chatted about this before, and I do need to, and I feel like I need to make it clear for anybody who doesn't, who hasn't followed me, or or who isn't aware. My tweets like are very much kind of done. A lot of people.
I don't think you do need to make. I mean, it's so clear. I mean, listen, if Andy Murray had won 15 slams, for example, then I can understand why people would get confused. Sure. But it's like I always use Barry Cowan as my reference. I don't know why his name makes me laugh in a way, and just he was a British player who sort of barely made any. He didn't really have any deep runs, shall we say? But I think he had a few second and third rounds at Wimbledon. But first of all, I think his name is funny, and secondly, I like to throw out. But it's kind of obvious that you're talking about a guy who's won 3 majors. Sure. Maybe you could have won 4. Maybe you could have won 5. Maybe even in a parallel universe, 1 or 2 more.
But he's the greatest of all time, John.
Yeah, exactly. But the fact that we have to spell this out in terms of it's a bit of a joke. I mean, I Scott, hopefully off the top of your head you can remember 1 or 2. But I think I tweeted you something today, or I sent a private message today, like try and bring some of the energy about the Barry Cowan is the best tennis player of all time because he once did 2 half volleys at the net in on the same day that Rafael Nadal was playing, and he only did 1.
Sure. I think like so an example of these kind of tweets. One of my ones I got a bit of traction is what was I got? Let me try and get this right. It was the amount of times Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic have won both the Olympic gold and the World Tour finals. None, 0. Amount of times Rafael Nadal has won the Olympic gold and the World Tour finals. None, because I was combining the 2 together as like one achievement. And Nadal has never won the World Tour finals, and Roger and Novak have never won a singles Olympic gold medal. And then obviously finished off with the many times Andy Murray has won the medal and the World Tour finals once. Well, although Andy's actually won multiple gold medals, but like I was combining the 2 together to make a one achievement.
More compelling case.
So and that's the kind of thing, just like making like ridiculous, because obviously there are some very, very good stats out there, and very, very good kind of there's a lot of tennis Twitters who are very good with stats and numbers and things like that.
I think when it comes to analyzing a matchup or going into a match, but to be honest with you, when it comes to the big 3, I think there's probably only 2 or 3 stats that I think are really noteworthy. How many majors have you won? how many Masters have you won?
Yeah.
Maybe how many weeks at number one, and that's about it. I
Though
don't care. I don't care if he's got a loss record against somebody he played twice in 2005.
Sure.
Or I don't care how, and you know, we can bring the women
Hmm.
into this. I'm sure there's some debate. It does seem to be a bit more toxic on the men's side. I wonder why that is. But
Yeah.
but
That's
you know,
a topic for a different.
yeah, that is a different show at a different moment. I once, yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's a different moment. But yeah, so so yeah, it's just it. Honestly, I'm a fan of Rafa Nadal. Pretty much everybody who tunes in knows that. But I find it tiresome. I don't when I see one about Nadal or Djokovic or Federer, but particularly when I see one about Nadal, because I'm a fan of his, I go, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing talking about how many matches he went unbeaten in X year and what the weather was like on this particular day and how many backhand returns he did and blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
You know, often they'll find something in the other player that's lauded, such as Djokovic's return, and then they'll try and find a stat that and so on and so forth.
Sure.
And it's just tiresome. And that's why your tweets are so funny. And so good, and there was, you know, we often use this LOL expression a little bit too loosely because I think most of the time people are writing LOL, they're not really laughing. But I like the old school ha ha ha, so I stick with that.
For sure.
Let's bring ha 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 back.
I mean, that's exactly it. So, like, to clarify what John's saying for people is my tweets are definitely like tongue in cheek. Like, they're not like the exact thing that like I do seem to need to spell out to some people in the replies to some of my tweets is, yes, obviously, if you lay out Andy Murray's career alongside Novak Djokovic or Rafael Nadal or Roger Federer, like, so somebody once accused me of pretending that Andy Murray was like a better player than them. I'm not even really doing that. I'm not even really pretending because I know. I'm not even doing that. I'm just literally like, you know, taking so many of these other tweets that I've seen and just kind of making it seem like Andy is worth more than all the facts of the other players' career. So obviously, if you lay out these three players, clearly they've had, you know, more success in their careers, and clearly they'll go down as bigger, more influential tennis players than Andy Murray, you know, and that's fine. That's okay. And it's okay for me to just make a joke about it. You know what I mean?
Scott, on this point, actually, if there's been a lot of talk, a lot of conjecture, particularly in recent days with some of the pictures of the four of them together, etc. My point is this. If Andy Murray is in the big three, who are we going to leave out?
If Andy Murray's in the... Wow. Oh gosh, who to anger?
I'm saying it's either Novak or Rafa. We've got to leave them out, I'm afraid.
Novak or Rafa.
It'll be like the Nations League. We'll just relegate you.
Let's just do the big two. Just
have Roger and big two. I agree. Let's have Roger and Murray in the big two, and then and the other guys can be in the Europa League of tennis, so to speak, and they can fight it out from there. Listen, it's been great having you on. I do want to just share this because it is on a similar theme, and it's a tweet you did a couple of days ago. Because there's obviously been a bit of love for a few hours at least between certain rival factions in tennis. But I thought this was great that you highlighted. It won't be long until.
I mean, as people rightfully pointed out in the replies, they were like, "Did they ever stop? Did they ever stop arguing?" Like, and it is true. While there was a lot of good faith and a lot of kind of good spirits during the Labour Cup,
there was a ceasefire for a very brief period. I felt, but you're right.
There were still people out there, and I guess that's the nature of sports, isn't it? That's the nature of fandoms. You know, we can coexist for a wee while, but not for too long. Not for too long.
There's been a few comments on. I've not gone to them recently in the live chat because basically we were obviously in the middle of a flow and stuff. And anyway, the Jethro here came in early with this one.
When is Scott doing a Casper Ruud episode? Oh gosh, is this going to need some context for people? I don't want to annoy any Casper Ruud fans. Like,
go on, just quickly. Can you give us 60 seconds on this?
Sure. So basically, I'm going to say this, Jethro, if you still listen, love it. Casper Ruud, I like him. I think he's a nice guy. Like, I think he's a nice guy. I'm just not fully on board with Casper Ruud winning a major. I see Casper Ruud very much going down the path of being a, maybe a David Ferrer. And that's a very, very good career. That's a really good career for him. I'm just not sure that he's capable of winning a major.
I have similar thoughts, Scott.
You think so?
I'm concerned that he's had these 2 runs at majors this year. I think I mentioned it on a pod. I think it might have been yesterday, actually, where it was like, I think he was posed a question by Eurosport earlier this week or last week, which was like, if we told you a year ago you were going to be in 2 major finals in 2022, what would you think? And his response was interesting. It was the classic kind of, oh, I would have thought you were crazy, but amazing, blah, blah, blah. My response is, Scott, if you told me I'm in 2 slam finals next year, I'd be like, do I win? Do I win either of them? Do I win either one? That's the obvious first question. Well, then I'll discuss whether I'm crazy or not.
Sure. And the thing is, like, maybe he'll go on and maximize it. Maybe he'll go on and absolutely take a title. And you know what? I'll be the first. Maybe alongside you. Maybe we'll do another episode, John.
Yeah, we'll have to do an apology to Casper.
And Jethro will be celebrating in my face about it. But I just don't know. I'm not totally sold on Casper Ruud going on and winning a major title, and that'll be what that was, because obviously Jethro's a huge Casper Ruud fan, and Jethro obviously he's a good friend of mine. So, well, again, there's other great Murray fans, but honestly, it was an absolute pleasure coming on, John. Like, it was an absolute pleasure. I didn't have to badger you too much. I didn't have to nag you too much.
No, it was the other way around. It was It was great having you on. Just see if I've got one more question for you before I lose you. Here we go. Here we go. This is a nice one from Miles here. So we had 41 consecutive weeks as world number 1. Is there a particular win that stands out for you, either in that spell or in general?
Gosh, the spell, like, was world number 1, 2016. I mean, because, like, the interesting thing is, like, in that period, so in that period of time, like, so everyone looks at 2016 as like the year of Andy Murray, but it was actually, I mean, do I get to pick wins from 2016? Because, like,
you can choose a different one. I mean, I have fond memories of his first slam at the US Open. I understand why British people would prefer some of his Wimbledon or even his Olympic success, but I have fond memories of that match because I was watching it in an empty hostel in Bilbao, quite late at night, as it would have been as it was in New York time, and I just remember thinking, finally he's got over the hill, because the more slam finals that kept going that he kept losing out on, the more painful it was getting.
So, like, I mean, obviously, like, because you do look at 2016 and you're like, wow, what year? And then you look at his time as world number 1, and he actually didn't, like, it was a relatively short period as world number 1, because he, obviously got injured, and then he had to, like, take some time off, and then he fell from world number 1. So, like, in that period, there wasn't actually that many kind of, like, standout matches when he was actually world number 1. It was like the road to world number 1 that really brought about so many good wins. The interesting fact about me, and I don't want to keep you for too much longer, John, but
I'm fine. It's your time, Scott.
No, I'm totally fine. Claire and Peter will be rolling their eyes, is that I'm always the guy who comes on. I'm like, when people ask me, what are your favorite Andy Murray matches? A lot of my favorite Andy Murray matches, Andy Murray doesn't win. Like, Andy Murray hasn't won. Like, the main one that I always roll out to say is back in 2012. Andy Murray, before he had won a major, before he'd won a major or the Olympic gold, even at the Australian Open, he played a semi-final match against Novak Djokovic, who was world number 1 and had pretty much gone undefeated the season before, and it was absolutely outrageously great. Like, it was such a good 5-set match that then went and got overshadowed by the Novak Djokovic Rafael Nadal final. But that match with Novak and Andy was so good, so good, and I credit so much of that, and I think Andy does as well. I think he said it on record, or even potentially Ivan Lendl has said it. That match was really credited as Andy coming off court and obviously being devastated that he lost, but, like, with an awareness that he could actually win against these top players on these kind of big courts. So that is such a good match for me. And in that period of time, as world number 1, the one I will highlight was, where was it? It was right at the start of 2017. So Andy was world number 1. Novak would have been world number 2. Right at the start of the year, their very first match. What tournament was it? It was a 3-set match, and it was outrageously good as well. And I think Andy lost that as well, but it was such a good match.
Doha, I'm just having a quick
look. Doha, that's where it'll be. Doha, yes, that's where it'll be. And it was such a good 3-set match. I would highly recommend people go and watch that, because, again, people kind of forget about it because it came right at the start of the year. And, at the start of the year, everyone was like, oh, those two are going to dominate the majors. And then Roger and Rafa just had a renaissance. So that match for me would be a standout. But again, he lost that. So a lot of his wins for me, like, I'm like, obviously, that's such an obvious one. He won Wimbledon and things like that. But yeah, a lot of his oh, here we go. If Andy can only win one more tournament that isn't a major, which tournament do you choose? Oh, one more tournament that isn't a major.
I mean, part of a Davis Cup winning team would be quite cool.
Oh, really, it would be amazing. It would be amazing. I mean, part of me wants to say like, I mean, give us okay, like I'll say a realistic option first, and I'll agree with what Claire I think said earlier in the chat is that I could see Andy winning Queens. Like I could absolutely see that, and I would love to see Andy win Queens again. It's obviously on grass court in front of the British crowd, fantastic.
Yeah,
Now,
that's realistic. I think that's a very realistic. I mean, we had Davidovich Fokina in the final, I think, this year.
yeah, absolutely. And
So
you know, while Queens is a very prestigious event, doesn't necessarily attract your Alcarazes or anything like that. Not yet, anyway. Maybe it will. So yeah, I could definitely see that happening. But if I'm being unreal,
Krajinovic in the final. I just had to check my facts out. I don't
no,
know why
no,
I thought Davidovich Fokina, but Krajinovic is equally mad to have him in a Queen's
right.
final.
So the tournament that the tournament that I would love to see him win, and this is majorly unrealistic. In fact, I would be surprised if he ever plays this event again. It's just highly unlikely it's going to happen. So one Masters 1000 on clay that he never won, and it was Monte Carlo.
Okay.
Like if I would love to see that, because if he did that, it would be outrageous. Because I think he's only not won Monte Carlo. If Andy won Queen's Day for long, I don't levitate to the heavens. He's all right. He's all wrong. He's all wrong. But yeah, I'd love to see Andy win Monte Carlo. It's been one that's kind of escaped him a wee bit, and yeah, I mean, I'd love to see it. He had a great match there against Rafa once, and it's such a good match as well. Again, he lost it, but it stands out to me. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to see that happen. I mean, it's not gonna. Again, I would be highly surprised if Andy plays on clay that much in his career going forward. But hey, that was a question, and I'll take Monte Carlo and I'll take Queens. And let's say he's going to win next year, John. Let's say he's going to win them next year. Why not?
Yeah, that's right. I think I on my nice sort of concluding remarks would be just to listen. Of course, I would love to see him have some more success than this, but just to see him in classic matches. You just mentioned him playing Rafa Nadal on clay. Just imagine them having an unbelievable 3-set match in Madrid, for example, or in Barcelona or something, and it goes to a super tiebreaker, and just some stuff like this. This is what I mean. He's won the 3 majors. Honestly, to be honest with you, Scott, listen, it'd be amazing, of course, if he won a 4th major, but we do understand that's unlikely. If he just brings more memories, because he's already won 3 majors, that's more than 99.9% of tennis players ever do anyway. So he's won 3 majors. That's fine. If he wins a 4th, it'll be amazing. It'll just be a great end to the story, if you like.
Absolutely.
But if he just provides us with more memories, if he can win some of these tight matches, like we mentioned with Isner and Berrettini and even Di Minor at the weekend, let's say the next year there's a Davis Cup run that he's a part of. This is amazing compared to where we were when he was on that bed with his hip, etc.
Sure. And I think what needs to be stressed, like a huge amount, is that it's actually what Andy's doing for himself right now. I feel like, so a lot of people are coming around being like, "Oh, his results haven't been great. His results haven't been great." Yeah, but I think like a lot of the time he's actually just out there. Before Rafa gets another one, Ashley, let's not do this. Let's not do this, Ashley. Let's get back to Andy first, all right?
Is Andy still in the slam race, by the way? Because now we've got Roger out of the slam race. Is Andy in the? Can he get 23?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So no, what was it? Like Andy's still very much like doing that for him. Like he's still making these memories. Like he the Davis Cup will, people be like, "Oh my gosh, they didn't win," but like playing another Davis Cup in front of a home crowd, he was basically crying afterwards because it was like such an emotional moment for him that it might be his last time playing Davis Cup in front of home fans. And then a huge one for me that really stood out was, and I'm not sure if you saw the video, John, when he was playing Laver Cup this past weekend, he got asked on the bench, I think it was on the Sunday, when he's already played his 2 matches, those are the only 2 matches he's going to be playing, and he's lost them both. And then he got asked, it was like, "Oh, how's it been?" And he was like, "Well, obviously, slightly disappointed not to get the win, but it was the first time that his kids had came to watch him play." Same time that his kids came to watch him play. Like that's a huge thing. That's an absolutely enormous thing. Like to try and rationalize in your head, like especially for Andy Murray, like a player who's dedicated, as all tennis players do, his life to this. and he wanted to get to the point where his kids could maybe come and remember like what they were watching, what they were taking in, and you hope that is now another box ticked on things that he wanted to stick around tennis for. So
Yeah.
if anybody wants to stick around tennis to tick boxes that he wants to tick, fine, let's do it. Let's take them with him, right? Like that's why I say I'll be here ticking boxes alongside him. Let's say
wonderful, and that's a great way to end this Let's Talk Andy Murray chat. I'm so glad that we managed to cross paths, Scott. Hopefully, we'll do so again in the future. But in the meantime, we can certainly follow you on Twitter and hopefully be amused by some of those activities.
Or be angry. That's fine too. Let's be angry at them too.
Listen, some people want to go there and be angry. They've got to go there, and it's a sort of safe toilet wall for people to fall on and show their anger from time to time. Listen, Scott, thanks for coming along, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Absolutely. Sounds good, John. I'll come on when Andy wins Wimbledon again. Let's do it.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. See you in 6 months then.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Thanks, Scott. And to the rest of the tennis world, thanks for stopping by.